what's up, my man?
Were you did you work with IMG Academy for a little bit?
I am currently
Oh, let's
like
go, dude.
like remote mental coach. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't even know they
over
did
here.
that.
Yeah, they have this new kind of platform, IMG Plus, which
Okay.
anybody can sign up for, and it provides like mental coaching and nutrition coaching.
Oh, that's super tight.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been doing that for a little bit.
Oh, nice. Do you have to like reach out for any of your own clients, or do they kind of send you like, hey, these people are
Yeah, they send you the clients, and then you just kind of manage them.
dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's been
That's
good.
awesome. How long you been doing that?
Um, January,
Okay.
so just a couple months.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. How are you?
Uh, I'm good. Let me get this thing rolling real quick because I feel like this content we need on the podcast. Uh, no, life's good, man. I can't complain. Uh,
Where in Texas are you again?
Wichita Falls.
Wichita Falls.
So what am I like 2 hours west of Dallas, I think.
How do you like it?
Boring, but it's fine.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
gets the
yeah,
job done.
yeah.
Let me do a quick intro, and then we'll get
Sure.
going. But welcome back to the podcast, everybody. My name's Joey. I'm your host. Today, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Drew Morgan, mental coach, owner, operator of Mental Coach Morgan. So what we're going to do today is talk about. We're going to review a clip that I found on social media, and then we're just going to talk about the message behind it. But then also, how do you now build on this particular skill set? So back to what you just said. Yeah, I mean, Wichita Falls it's fine. Like, I got enough to keep me going. I got two golf courses,
There you go. That's all you
got a
need.
gym, got a dog,
Nice.
Dallas or with OKC, not too far away. I was at the Sweet 16 games last night.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. So
Nice.
so
Which
a little
ones?
tired today, but it's fine.
So which games were there?
Duke. So the first one was NC State Marquette. Second one was Duke Houston.
Mm,
Uh, like I love it because it's like I don't know, it takes you back to high school AAU days where there's multiple games in a day, right? But
yeah.
man, living 2 hours away, like got there at 4:30. First game started at 6. Second game ended at 11:30. Two-hour
Yeah.
drive home.
Man,
Man,
that is a long day. Yeah, even after one, like if I go to a sporting event, like one basketball game or a football game as a whole, that's a
oh
whole
yeah, whole other
whole
story.
day.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'm beat. I'm like, get me in my couch. Like,
Oh man, well, it was crazy because like again, Sweet 16, right? And games are going to be closer, more slowed down. Then you add the media timeouts, so it's like the games are longer than probably what they
yeah,
should be. But with I don't know, like 5 minutes left in the first game, I'm like, damn, there's another game after this. Like, okay, all right.
yeah.
It was either that or go out there tomorrow for the championship game. Um,
Mm.
but I don't know, two for the price of one. And I had a kid I used to coach plays for Florida, so this
Oh,
was gonna be his
nice.
bracket. Uh, so
Yeah,
that was unfortunate, but I was like, let's go experience it, because the other option is now it's like a 4 hour commute on a Sunday, which nobody wants to do.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
uh,
Well, that's awesome. You got to do that.
yeah. What's new? What's new with you? House selling fun?
It's terrible. I didn't realize how terrible it is because, like, you have to keep the house pristine, and like we keep the house. My wife, she has some OCD tendencies. She's not
Okay.
she's not OCD, but she's like
Yeah.
loves it clean and orderly, and so usually we have the house pretty clean. But like you have to keep it immaculate because they'll it's like a 2 hour window. They'll be like someone wants to come see the house, and so you get
Yeah.
2 hour notice and you kind of got to capitalize on if people want to come.
Yeah.
So
Because you want to
it's
showcase what it could look like.
yeah, yeah, and you like if a dirty house and stuff isn't going to sell,
No.
um, and so yeah, like this, it's a short period, right? Like so, hopefully by end of April is our goal that it'll be sold, but yeah, it is a little hectic. I have to reschedule clients, or I'm taking client calls in the
Oh
car,
yeah.
like, uh,
Yeah.
but it's all good. It's all good.
Because you gotta kind of, since you're moving, like you gotta kind of emphasize that, it's like we need this
Yeah,
thing
that's kind
sold.
of got to be the priority,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
So yeah,
Do you
it's
guys
temporary.
do you guys have a date when you're moving yet? I can't remember. I feel like you've told me before, but
We are leaving May 28th.
okay,
We are doing 3 months in Europe,
okay.
and then we will be moving to Charleston, South Carolina.
Hell, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is the Europe part just like one big trip before like life gets super, super serious, or
Yeah, so my wife, she actually defended her dissertation on Thursday.
ooh,
So big
so
stuff.
she
So
needs a
she'll,
break.
yeah, yeah. So she graduates with her PhD in May. And we knew that we wanted to move back to Charleston.
Mhm.
And so this just felt like a good, and we've been kind of saving and talking and planning this Euro trip for a while, and just felt like a good kind of transition point where we were
Yeah,
like, we don't know, you never know what the future is going to hold. Like we want to have some kids. And so
yeah.
it makes it a little bit harder
You got
when
the
something
time.
happens.
You have the time now. So
Right.
might as well go try it.
Yeah.
Are you both, or which one of you's from that area?
So neither, but we both went to the College of Charleston,
Oh, okay.
which why it was very hard for us to see us bounce in the first round.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, but they made it.
they did,
Shout
yeah,
out
yeah.
them.
The Cougars, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, we both went there, and I lived there for about 6 years. She lived there for about four, and we loved it there. We have a lot of friends, so
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the area, but
yeah,
never had a chance to go. I know I was close being in Georgia, but I think I've driven through it going to one of the military installations out there, but like never had a chance to stay out there. So it's
yeah.
on the.
What where were you close to in Georgia?
I was hour and a half south of Atlanta,
Okay. Did you go
and
to
then
Savannah ever?
I went once. Yeah, that was about God 3-ish hour drive. That's a cool little town.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
got
I didn't.
similar vibes to Charleston.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I like how that one main road where all like the bars and restaurants are, it's all like brick and everything. That was
mhm,
kind of a cool little scene, and it's right along the
yeah,
water.
yeah.
Um, we did I did a like a crime history pub crawl
Oh,
thing.
cool.
And I was like, "This is gonna be dope." It was 2 hours long, I think, and we stopped by 3 bars, and we were maybe in there for like 2 minutes each time. So I was like, I feel like that defeats the purpose of a pub crawl, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool stories about murder. I mean, sweet.
yeah.
So speaking of March Madness, because you brought up Charleston, and I said I went there Friday. I'm interested to hear your take on this. How does your perspective on watching these games change now that like you're in the field of sports psychology, or does it?
Um, yeah, it does. I think I just think about I because I work with, a lot of college athletes, and you watch them on TV, and they, for whatever, like they look like grown men, right? Like, or women for that matter,
Yeah,
like either side.
yeah,
And I think it's easy to like look and treat them as such, like betting on games, and it just strikes me how young they really are.
yeah,
And like these are kids, and like the pressure of like the so many people watching and all of this stuff and I so much the athletes that I work with is like one of the biggest, most common themes is like a sense of pressure that they feel,
mm,
not necessarily to like for one game, but just like I have to be great, like I got to get to college or I got to get a scholarship. Like
yeah,
it's so hard to be a kid right now.
yeah.
And so that's kind of, I guess you asked, my perspective has changed. Yeah, there's just a sense of like I don't know, I guess a sense that these are kids, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I think you
ah
realize how much they're actually going through now. I think when you're watching it as a fan, you're just like, oh man, like this is their time to shine. Like, let's go out and do it. And then now, yeah, now that we're in the field where it's like we're taught to acknowledge like behavioral changes and like how does pressure like impact you in certain situations. Like they've been playing in front of people this whole time, right? But now you get to the NCAA tournament and now like everybody's watching you.
yeah,
And it's like
Yeah.
that could be a lot for people, and they're 18 to 22-year-olds, and I think that's when now you start going down things where it's like, someone like Caitlin Clark right now. And I think she even talked
Yeah.
about it the other day, was like, there's a lot of pressure on me that I've never felt before. Like
Yeah.
everybody's been following her all year because it's her last year and like breaking the scoring record and all that stuff, and now she's got this the offer from the big three. Team USA is calling, and she's supposedly like changing the game of women's basketball, and like all that's coming at once. So it's like
Yeah.
she's what, 23?
Yeah. I don't
Like
somewhere like that.
somewhere like give or take a year. So it's like that's a lot. Like what was I doing at 23? Like
Yeah.
no shot I was handling any of that,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to be reciting on this podcast what I was doing at 23.
No, no,
That
no,
doesn't
no,
need to
no.
be in the
That's a
public
different that's a different
arena.
podcast. Uh, but yeah, I think of myself at 23. Like if I had all that pressure that like she's going through, like what? No shot. Like I'm handling that situation well. I don't think.
Well, come on, give yourself credit. You would
Okay, all
definitely
right.
handle
Appreciate
it
it.
well.
Okay,
But
all right. Thank
yeah, I think the
you. I
average,
needed
but
that,
like,
Drew. I needed that.
but I think, yeah, I think most people, and she, I mean, obviously she's incredible athlete and talent, and so like
Yeah,
this, there it was coming for her, right? Like, and I don't know her background if she was always like a standout and like
yeah,
always kind of had attention on her, but yeah, once you get to that level, like there's some tough skin that you develop, I think.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's where you see like the people who, not just in basketball, but I think in whatever profession where they have eyes on you, like that's where you see that people separate themselves from like having a long withstanding career versus like it's cut short. Once they
mhm.
now have all these people and all these expectations of themselves, how do you now go about this? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and distractions, and I think that actually leads in well to the video that the Instagram video. So I don't maybe don't want to go into that right now,
No,
but
let's go ahead. Yeah, let's
uh,
do it.
well, maybe we'll do we are we going to show it and then talk about it or
Oh yeah, yeah. Since save that point. Let's show it, and then we'll get to that. So found this clip. The gentleman's name is Michael Todd. He is a pastor. He is an author. I don't know the area, but it's a short 30-second clip, and he's talking about what kind of version of yourself you should be. So he has a very interesting take. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
The greatest version of you is not the I can do anything version of you. The greatest version of you is the disciplined version of you. The greatest version of you is the version that has parameters. No, I don't do that. I don't drink that. I don't go there with these people. I'm focused. I have a prize that's in front of me. I know what I'm supposed to do, and that ain't it. I have to stay right here.
So those of you who end up watching that on the YouTube channel, the man is fired up, and I'm also fired up watching it, to be quite honest. But I think he brings up some interesting points, and we're definitely going to talk about like what those points are and how to build off of what he just said. But yeah, so what were you talking about? Getting into with distractions in relation to this video?
well, so thinking of Caitlin Clark, like with her popularity and the notoriety and like the amount of distractions she's being faced with, just with probably like endorsement deals or like commercials or like do this or like you could go on this show and like probably a lot of opportunities that sound really fun and exciting and very easy to then go into that and lose focus of basketball.
Yeah, yeah, because
So
she's
I
still
guess
playing,
that's what
right?
made me
Like,
think that, yeah,
yeah,
and she's going to be for a while. At least that's the plan, I
yeah,
think.
right. Like everybody
I
else
don't
is.
know her personally. I don't know her personal plan, but that's the idea.
Yeah, well, everybody's saying she's going to be like top pick, right?
Yeah,
So it's like I can only imagine it's going to continue. I can't imagine you have the popularity that she does and like the way she actually excels at the sport, like not just scoring but doing all these things. And it's like, oh yeah, actually, I'm going to call it quits. So I can only
right.
assume.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, like I think when all these when things start going well, you have all these other areas trying to like pull your attention now, right?
yeah,
We kind of talked about it earlier. Team USA came calling, was like, hey, tryouts, what's up? Even though it takes place during the Final Four. Uh, hey, Big Three, we're gonna give you $5 million to come play 8 games, even though like again, that's not gonna happen for a while. It's like And I think that does tie into the video a little bit where he's talking about like I can do anything. It's like maybe it's like I achieve all these things. Like, oh yeah, like I can do all these things, right? Like this is what I'm able to gain now from my notoriety, from the work I put in. Great. But like you said, you still have a game to play. Like you're still in a tournament, right? So like maybe in that case, yeah, like the disciplined version of you needs to overtake the, I can do anything version of me, right? Because I think her playing with the
Yeah.
big three, like I think that's breaking down a barrier right there. Right. Like
Yeah.
going and playing against a bunch of men, which I'm pretty sure she would kill half of them, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
What are your
It,
overall takes from this video?
so I am naturally kind of repulsed is too strong of a word, but naturally like those motivational kind of videos and clips like kind of get under my like they just rub me the wrong way.
Oh
And
yeah.
I know that they serve a great purpose and like they can be super helpful for a lot of people. And if you're one of those people, like love it, like that's awesome. But for me, I don't know. I get like um I don't know. They don't
Yeah.
resonate with me. Um,
Well, I think that's
some
the
do,
point.
but yeah,
I think that's the point of like why I wanted to do this, is because like not because I'm repulsed at all these videos I see, but I think what's ultimately lacking is like, hey, yeah, the message is great, right? Like establish your boundaries, like stay focused on what's in front of you, right? Like, a certain mindset you should have, but you're not telling me like how to do it.
yeah,
Like
and
you're saying good things, but it's like
yeah,
to me again in the field, it's just like it's just noise. So like, how do we now add to it?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it is great, like it is awesome, like a great message,
Yeah, oh hell yeah.
and I'm all about it. But my thing is like the I think one of the hardest parts is figuring out what you're trying to be focused on. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So we'll use Caitlin Clark. Go back to her as an
Yeah.
example. So there's a lot of different things that she might be motivated to do or want to do, but deciding what is the most important. So is the most important thing for her playing professionally? Then maybe that means foregoing the Final Four and going to Team USA. So like it's hard it's hard to like set those strict parameters and boundaries. Like if you're not super clear on like where the direction is. And I think now more than ever, it's like very hard to really identify that direction and like that one thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think yeah, because a couple of things you said, right, is like focusing on the prize in front of you and establishing those parameters. Well, if you don't know what this is really building towards, then it's like maybe you have those parameters, so to speak, but it's like maybe you're not as hard set on like staying within them because there's such a variance in what it is you want to achieve.
Yeah, so like yeah, yeah, absolutely. It also makes me think of so like you see college football players now like maybe not going to bowl games because
Hmm.
they don't want to risk injury before going to the pros.
Yep.
Um, and that's I think a great example of like that's their decision. Like they're making a decision based on what is in their best interest. And I think a lot of people have a problem with that. It's like,
Yep.
oh, like you got to be part of the team. Like you see it all the way through, and I totally get that. And there's a big part of me that agrees with that.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you're looking at what the YouTube video just said, like, I think people that are foregoing like the bowl games and stuff, they've decided on that what's most important to them, and they're staying focused on that. And I have a certain amount of respect for that.
Yeah, because it's weird if you bring in that example, right? Like they are focusing on. I guess you can say they're focusing on the prize in front of them because the prize they want is to get drafted and
Yeah.
play in the NFL, right? Um, and then you can have that argument about, well, is it a disciplined version of you to skip your ball game, or is it more disciplined to like play in the ball game, right? So I guess that's where your definition of what it means to be disciplined kind of comes into play. But yeah, I think it's like it's tough, right? Because I think there's that narrative of, oh, you're quitting on your team. It's like what do they really get out of that bowl win? If he goes and they win the bowl game, like, what do you get out of it? You're not getting paid, you know? Yeah, maybe it like helps the guys who aren't going to get drafted like end on a high note, sure, but like if you get a career-ending injury in that game, then now what?
Yeah, or an injury. Yeah, it impacts your draft stock, and yeah, and I think not to diminish like those bowl games and what that
Yeah,
experience would be for them,
yeah,
those players. And if I was it's hard to say, but I was gonna say if I was a teammate and one of my like the best player on our team didn't play because he's going to get drafted, I might be kind of pissed about that.
sure, yeah,
But I think that is like being disciplined. Like that is a very hard choice. Like,
yeah,
sure, those athletes are not like excited about missing their bowl game. They had to make a hard choice, and I think that's also part of being disciplined is like making really hard
yeah,
choices like that.
yeah, yeah. Because I think when you reach higher level, the higher you go, like the more sacrifice is needed. I think
Mm,
when you talk to people at the high, or you hear about people talking about the highest parts of their game, like that's not an easy decision for anybody in that
yeah,
case. But it's like, in order for me to achieve what I want to achieve, this is a decision I unfortunately have to make right now. And it's tough, but um, yeah, because I also think like no matter what decision you make in that moment, someone's going to be upset.
yep.
But yeah, so the first part, one of the things is that yeah, so like we're kind of talking about now, but the disciplined version of you versus the I can do anything version of you. What are your thoughts about that in terms of like someone's mental approach, taking the
Mm,
approach of like being disciplined versus like I can do anything that I want to do?
yeah, I think so. I guess we'll keep this in for at least for me. It's helpful to we'll keep this in the realm of like athletes.
Yep,
Okay, because if
yep,
we're talking about everyday people, I think that then that are not specializing in sports, I think there's a lot of value in that belief that I can do anything.
yep,
But um, so in sport, the contrasting like being disciplined and focusing on that one thing versus like being open to being good at everything
hmm,
or thinking that you can be good at everything.
interesting.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to clarify the question or
Oh,
like,
um, no, because I'm trying to think about it in the words in the way he was using it, right? So it's like
yeah,
it's more important for me to be disciplined than to almost have this belief that I can do anything no
uh,
matter what, at least in my
yeah,
opinion, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, see that uh, I can see where what he's saying, and it's like be focused, have be
Yeah.
driven towards your goals. But it kind of also made me think of the huge trend in youth sports is specializing early, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, you're good at baseball. All right, we're gonna play baseball all year round
yeah.
because that's gonna help you get a scholarship. And I am so against that. I hate that, and
Yep.
like because it causes overuse injuries and burnout
Yep.
and just all sorts of things. And it's just also not to get on too big of a side tangent here, but it's like
Things happen,
but there's a lot of money in youth sports, and there's a lot of
Oh yeah.
for those youth sport organizations to hey, let's do it year round. Well, year round tournaments, it's a lot more money for them. But anyways,
Yep. Yep.
um, yeah, I guess it comes down to like being clear on what's important to you.
Okay.
And if you are clear on it, then yeah, cut out the noise. But I think you also there has to be like a certain level of being open to new experiences and like
Mm,
you are still a human being, like enjoy your life, like don't restrict yourself too much where but that
yeah.
again it kind of depends on the person because if I'm coaching someone I would not want them to have these massive blinders on
Yeah.
um, for an extended period of time. Maybe we're talking like 3 months because they gotta like make this tryout, sure. But if you're staying in that zone and just kind of blocking everything else out, I think then you're missing out on life. And I think being a human being is important. But
Yeah.
that's why, yeah, I think like again, the message is good, but it's so context dependent.
Yeah, and I think because I think where my mind always comes back to is this idea, and it's not super similar. It's not a one for one, but this idea of like what's productive and what's counterproductive. Again, getting away from this idea of like positive versus negative, but like, maybe somebody having the mindset of like I can do anything, having that approach, maybe that's not productive for them.
Mm,
Maybe that type of person needs to have more of a disciplined approach to whatever it is that they're doing. But then maybe it's the other way around too, right? Like maybe somebody's more productive for them to have this like I can do anything attitude and approach towards life, towards um training, towards whatever it is, because that's what's going to help motivate me to reach whatever my end result is. So
mm,
yeah, definitely very, very context dependent. So I think like for me, when I hear him talking about that, it's like you're like, how do you get someone to develop a more disciplined mindset? How do you get someone to develop a more of a
mm.
I can do anything attitude? I think it kind of starts with what you just said was like you have to figure out what is it ultimately that you want.
Yeah, and you just talking that out kind of spurred something for me because um, I think it does come back to like self-awareness. And so if I remember in my basketball days, I'm not overly tall, for in terms of basketball, I'm not tall, like I'm 6'3", 6'4" ish. But in my high school, I was like the tallest guy. So
Yep.
I was, automatically like the center or
Yep.
on the team.
Yep.
And I I always just wanted to be the guard, like the shifty, but that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I always struggled in basketball, I think partly because of that reason.
Yeah.
But so the self-awareness and the discipline comes in. If I had more back then it might have been, all right, I am big, and I can get some rebounds. Like, let's see what I'm good at and get
Yeah.
better at that instead of trying to be good at a lot of different things. So maybe that's also kind of his point is like, focusing on your strengths and like leaning into those instead of, like Steph Curry is never gonna like be a windmill dunker or like,
Yeah.
but so he was just like, I'm good at shooting. I'm just gonna be like the best ever.
Yeah.
Um, so that perspective I like.
And here you say that kind of reminds me of something I told the softball players I work with not that long ago, but like this idea of, stay within yourself.
Hmm.
It's like in order for you to stay within yourself, like you have to know about yourself. You have to like know what you're good at. So I think that's kind of where maybe
Yeah.
discipline comes in is like knowing yourself and then kind of not sticking to those things, right? But like, let me make sure I get these building blocks down right. And then we can figure out like, is there a way I can kind of expand
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Um, do you think discipline is something that can be taught?
Um, yeah. I mean, it can be learned. I don't think that there's, yeah, certainly there. I mean, there's definitely things that I think from a mental standpoint you can do to help control your impulses. Um, so, but I also think discipline is kind of earned.
Mm,
Like you have to, like, it's discipline kind of sucks,
yeah,
or it
yeah.
can. And so it can be difficult and so, but once you do it a few times, like you earn that respect of yourself and then it
Mm.
becomes easier. So yeah, it absolutely can.
And I think I heard, I don't know who he was. He was on David Goggins' podcast. I just like in a video just scrolled through. I might have it saved for another one of these podcast episodes, but he talked about like, yeah, when you fight those like urges, like there's a particular part of your brain that gets like bigger,
Mm,
like the mid anti-cingulate something, right? But he's like you see it a lot in professional athletes. They're bigger in professional athletes. They're smaller in obese people.
mm,
But it's like every time you fight off an urge, like this area like strengthens. I'm like, oh damn, like
mm.
that's kind of crazy. So I think that ties
Yeah.
into your point of like how discipline is kind of like earned. sort of thing.
Mm.
You know, like, yeah, you can be taught it, but it's like you still have to kind of do it
Yeah,
to make it become real.
as you do it, it becomes easier, or you become better at it. Reminds me of like the marshmallow study, the
Mm,
classic marshmallow study. They put some kids in a room and said, like, put a marshmallow in front of them. It was like, hey, you can either have this marshmallow now, or if you wait an hour, we'll give you two marshmallows. Um, and then they tracked like their success, and I don't know how they measured success, but I think it was
yeah.
mostly like financial, over the years. And the kids that uh, delayed their gratification, so they waited an hour to get two marshmallows, were more successful in life than the people that ate the marshmallow
Wow.
right there. Um, so it was basically, to me, that's also kind of discipline, saying, okay, I want that marshmallow right now, but I know it'll be better for me if I wait, because then I'll
Yeah.
get two.
Yeah. So it sounds like, yeah, with that, it sounds like, how would you, like, let's say athlete comes to you and says, like, I want to be more disciplined. It sounds like a way to potentially handle that is like what is kind of tying in there. I don't want to say self-talk necessarily, but like maybe it is like a contingency plan sort of thing. Maybe it is like a reframe, so to speak. Uh yeah, I really do want this marshmallow. However, if I wait, like I can I can have two instead of just one, right? So like I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe there's like a little bit of self-talk in there, but also
100% self-talk.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think probably
And
with goals, obviously too, because right, like you said, if you know what your end state is, it's I don't want to say it's going to be easier, to establish that discipline, but like like if I'm trying to lose weight and I know eating those 5 cookies over there is not going to help me out, right? It's like then maybe I'll have that more disciplined gene in my body to be like, hey, don't need that now.
yeah,
Versus if I don't have that goal, it's like, well, discipline's out the window. It's like I'm gonna eat the heck out of those cookies.
I think self-talk is huge when talking about discipline. And I can kind of describe how I work on this with my athletes or
Yeah.
my clients. Um, so this is from Dr. Russ Harris, and he talks about away and towards moves. So basically, what you do is you sit down and you write down first the values that you are trying to live as a person. So these are values that, the best version of you, the values that you express as the best version of you. So
Mhm.
these are not necessarily values that like are super easy to you and like come every day. So we could say, okay, discipline's one. So discipline, you want to be disciplined. You also write down like your goals. So basically you're trying to get a picture of like who's the person you're trying to go towards, right?
Mhm.
Who you're trying to become. And then you write down all of the thoughts or behaviors that take you away from that person. And so let's say you were trying to lose weight. So your goal is to lose weight and to be disciplined and to be healthy. There's some of the values. And then a thought that might take you away is like, I've been good this week. Like I can have a burger. And so that's the thought that takes you away.
Okay.
And so now we're having more recognition of those initial thoughts that pop up that we then cling on to. And so this is
Okay.
where the part that comes in is important, is when those thoughts pop up that take us away from who we want to be as a person and our goals and our values, we get hooked onto those thoughts. So that thought now is taking control of it,
Yep.
versus if we are able to let go of that thought, unhook, and move and act in accordance to our values, like that's what it's all about. And so Dr. Russ Harris, a lot of stuff on YouTube on him, and he comes from an ACT perspective,
Okay.
acceptance commitment therapy, and
Yeah.
being able to kind of look at your thoughts and not engage with them or have them take you in a certain direction. Um, and a lot of people equate discipline to mental toughness.
Mm.
Um, but in this context, the way I kind of think about it is mental flexibility,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
you're being flexible in, no, I'm not gonna go with my thoughts. I'm gonna go in a different direction.
Yeah. That's something I talk a lot about with the pilots I work with is, you're not going to control those thoughts that come in, right? Like you're going to have that thought that says like, oh, I've done good this week. I can have a burger. That's going to go in there whether you want it to or not. But it's like you are the one controlling whether it gets hooked on, or it's like it just falls off the face of the earth. Right. So kind of like redirecting where you want it to go. And that's interesting
Yeah.
because like back at the army contract, like we did MRT, right? So
Hmm.
Karen Rivich's work, and I think she's more along the lines of like, at least the way we taught it was establishing values that kind of you already possess, because it's going to be a lot more easier for you to display those values. But it sounds like with what you're talking about, it's like if you know that discipline is a value that you want to have, but you don't already have, like let's talk about how we can try to instill that.
Yeah, and I guess the way I phrase it is like these are values that you do already have, but you
Mm,
just want to see more in yourself.
okay.
Um, yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I like that, right? Cause like I think it is a form of self talk, but it's also a form of planning, right? Like
yeah.
I know I need to be disciplined. Like I know show that I can be disciplined. What's a thought that's gonna kind of take me away from being disciplined is this. So if I
Hmm.
know that, now I've kind of triggered in my brain, well, if I say this, I know it's like, oh, this is what an undisciplined version of me would do. Now let me
Yeah,
zoom back over to the
yeah.
other side.
And I think also what makes it powerful is that it, when let's say, using that example, trying to lose weight, um, we think of when we tie it into our identity, like I am a healthy person or
Hmm.
I am disciplined. And so then when you act, you eat that burger when you weren't planning on it. Now, like you've gone further away from the identity of the type of person that you want to be.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about like that in particular goal now of like losing weight. It's I'm not acting like my best self. And I
Yeah.
think that can be powerful.
Yeah, because I think it takes away from like, oh, I'm not going to lose weight now versus I'm not a healthy person now.
Mm,
And I think that'll probably hit a lot of people have a lot more weight, no pun intended,
yeah.
on people, right? Because it's like a goal is a goal. Like I can change it if I want to, but like if I identify as this and I'm directly going against that, or I'm directly going into that identity, then it's like, oh, that's going to have a lot more of a powerful implication
Yeah.
than just a
Yeah.
number.
Right.
Interesting. I like that. Um, so another thing, well, so now that we've established like this part, right? Like the discipline aspect, he does talk about like establishing like parameters, or I looked at it as like boundaries, right? Like boundaries for
Yeah.
yourself. So since we're going along this line of like this goal setting process, how would you go about establishing like boundaries within that process, whether it's with yourself or with other people?
Ooh.
I think that's part of it,
So
right? Like,
mhm.
especially if we're talking about discipline, right? Like, and I have this end state in mind, like I want to be disciplined. Like, I still have to establish some sort of like, what is that now going to look like, sort of thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, um, again, I think it first starts with being clear on what, hey buddy,
yeah,
uh, being,
co-host joining.
yeah, being clear on like what it is you're trying to do, and then maybe identifying the things that take you away from that. So maybe it's relationships, maybe it's um, foods or things that you do or partake in, um, and then yeah, creating some rules around it. This is the, I guess it also makes me think of during the ASP conference, the sports psychology conference
Yeah,
held every year. Dr. Tracy Statler is a big figure in the field. Talked about when she sets goals with clients, she goes through the goals or whatever, and then she has them rate 1 to 10 how important is achieving this goal to you.
mm,
And so they might say 6, and okay, that's fine.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. So that just means it's not like a huge priority.
yeah,
So you're not going to be that motivated to, cut out other things in your life to achieve that goal. But
yeah.
if you say it's a 9, it's like, okay, this is really important to you. And then she follows it up with, what are you willing to sacrifice to achieve that goal?
Mm,
And I think that's really powerful because it makes you think, okay, what am I willing to sacrifice?
yeah,
And that can be a helpful way, I think, of thinking about boundaries and
yeah,
like cutting some things out that might not be easy.
yeah. And everything I've learned or read or, came across in terms of like a goal setting process
Sorry, I'm
is
just gonna let my dog in
no,
because
you're
he's
good. It noticed another dog was like, oh, Jay, I gotta
he's
get
a
in there now.
yeah
Yeah, one thing's like I don't think we talk enough about that part of what are you willing to give up? Hey, here's what do you want? Like, how are you gonna go about attaining that? Like, what are the smaller steps you're gonna take? Yeah, great. Like, how you gonna remind yourself? Great. But yeah, what are you willing to give up?
yeah
You know, and I think this is kind of along the same lines, but like in Tim Grover's book, MJ Trainer, right? He talks about, when it comes to being elite, like there is no choice. You're getting up at 4 a.m. to work out, right? Like you aren't going out clubbing, right? Like you have to do all these things. And even LeBron talked about it the other day with his new little podcast with JJ Redick, right? Like the
Hmm.
things you have to sacrifice to be at the top of your game. And me personally, like I've never talked about that in terms of goal setting, but it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I think if you truly want to achieve something, it's like, well, what do you like? I think how you would define how important it is to you. What do you want to give up?
yeah, yeah, and it's something I haven't historically done, but I've started to, and I only do it with the athletes that like are all in. Like they're
Yeah,
like, this is what I like. They're 9 or 10 on playing college or whatever.
yeah,
I think there's a lot of athletes and things that I work with that, um, playing in college is not really a top priority. They would be nice, like they would be open to it, but
yeah,
um, they have other interests or there's, so I'm like, yeah, okay, like we don't need to. I think that is a mindset, like great, like wake up 4 a.m., do all this hard work if you really know what you want.
yeah,
But I think that often is challenge number one,
yeah,
figuring that out.
yeah. Because I think too, yeah, if you tell me that this goal is a 9 out of 10 on the importance scale, and then ask you what are you willing to give up, and you're not willing to give up certain things, it's like, well, then is it actually a 9?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
which again, it's okay, right? Like, it can be less, it's fine, but it's like if you're telling me this goal is super important for you, but you don't, yeah, you want to lose weight, but you don't want to give up sweets. What adjustment are you going to make? Like I've
Yeah.
been on
Right.
diet plans where like I've incorporated 4 Reese's peanut butter cups and I've been fine, right? Because it's part of my macros. But even then, if I'm going to eat that, I got to sacrifice something else, right? So like
Yeah.
the day is going to be a lot more of a grind. Or it's like, or do you want to just get rid of sweets? So it's like, what are you willing to give up? You can't just, something's got to give, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes like creating those like hard and fast rules just makes it easier on yourself with like less decision making. It's like, okay, I can have like 4 peanut butter cups a day. Then it's like, okay, should I have one now? Or like maybe I could have this instead of the peanut butter cup cookie. But if you're just like, I don't have sweets, like decision's done. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, now my dog wants to go outside. So
The life of a dog owner, like
yeah,
they want to go in, they want to go out.
yeah,
I want to eat, I don't want to eat. My guy will be like yelling at me when it's dinner time. I put the food down, he just stares at me. He's like, "No, I'm not hungry." It's like, what do you mean? What are
some
you
power
yelling at me
games with
for?
you.
Man, dude, jeez.
He's trying to be
Uh,
the alpha.
I just coworker. I was watching a coworker's dog for the last 2 weeks, and she just picked him up not too long ago. But he would whine at me, and it's like, "Oh, we got to go outside." Go outside, and he just stares at me. I'm like, "What did you want, man? Like,
Yeah.
throw the ball." I don't got a ball. Um. But so the last thing I think we kind of talked about this early on, but the last thing, again, he's talking about focus, right? So focusing on what's in front of you. So for me, it's not only just keeping the end goal in mind, but I think also shifting towards more of that like task focused approach, right? Like what do I need to do in order for me to achieve whatever this end state is? So like how does the concept of attention and focus come up with the athletes that you work with?
In relation to like achieving their goals.
You can take it either way, whether it's goals, whether it's just in general, right? Like focusing on what the job is.
Well, when I talk to athletes about focus, it's mostly about in the moment focus, like how to
Mm,
stay focused on the right thing and not get distracted by whatever it might be.
yeah.
But I think if we look at it maybe in a bigger picture of like staying focused on what's important to you, you know, it's very cliche at this point, but it's so true, is like focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it comes to goals, like the outcome is what we want. Like, we're losing weight, I want to lose 20 pounds, that's the outcome. Like, we want to be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so if we are hyper focused on the outcome of losing weight, you know, maybe if we're taking like a healthy, you know, like not doing some like crazy binge diet where but doing it kind of over a long period of time, like the results are going to be very slow and gradual. And if you're hyper focused on the outcome, then that could be very demotivating for you.
Yeah.
But if you're focused more on the process and like your actions and like like your discipline and those things that you can control, and you're recognizing that as progress, it's going to be much easier and sustainable over the long term. So I guess, yeah, I think it's important to have outcome goals and to have these things that you can measure and as a way of motivation, but it can be a big distraction because it can feel like we're not making progress towards it. Sometimes you got to make 2 steps back, it's 1 step forward. They talk about progress is never linear, so like so
fluctuates.
I guess that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, and I think having that eye on the prize, as he says, I think to me it's more just like a reminder, right? Like, I have this outcome goal, like not necessarily like focusing on it, but that should be used as like a reminder of like why I'm doing what I'm doing every single day. Bringing up the weight example too, it's like, and I think that's a common thing you see with like people trying to lose weight is typically they're not doing anything beforehand, right? So when they get on a plan, they see drastic improvements like right off the bat. But then they start to level out and it's like, oh, am I doing this wrong now? It's like, no, like you just have to now adjust. So like I think that's where you're talking about too, not focusing so much on the result itself.
Yeah.
What is it, what I need to do to get to whatever this end state is.
Yeah. I see it so much in my athletes that I work with, that especially in youth sports where kids that are naturally talented, that comes really easy to them, like they're maybe seeing progress like every day because they're learning a lot, and then they go to a more elite team or a tougher competition and the outcomes aren't there because competition's harder, and it can be very frustrating and demotivating and all of that, and you can easily lose sight of like your goal.
One of the first people I interviewed on this was one of the basketball trainers I know from back home, and he was saying the same thing. Like the high school kids he trains with, like, yeah, you're good, right? Like you stand out in this city, in this area, but when you go to college, everybody's good. Like, so you're not going to see, the drastic increase in numbers. Progress is going to slow down, but it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's just because, standards, the situation, it's starting to kind of like creep up to whatever your skill set is,
Yeah. And as you, like in anything in life, as you increase in skill, like the margins become much thinner of what you can get to, right? Like if I'm learning something new, like I'm going to see big gains quickly, and then once I get really good at it, it's going to be razor thin.
I'm experiencing that with like lifting weights right now, because I'm on more of like a strength building program for the more heavier lifts like bench, squat, and deadlift. And like
I've seen some of your videos. You're putting up some weight,
man, dude. I haven't put any up in a while, but it's like it gets so frustrating because like I'll do something for like a month and a half, and like I'll only go up like I'll do like 1 extra rep, and I'm like, I feel like I should be doing more than this, but at the same time, it's like if I look where I was at when I started, the jumps aren't going to be as high. So it's like, I think having that reminder of like why you're doing what you're doing, and I think to keep focus on the prize in front of you. I think now it ties back into your original point about like the whole value part of it, right? Is like, I have
Yep.
these things, I have these thoughts that are going to take away from me. Yes. But what is it that, like, why am I doing this in the first place? Like, what keeps me going even when I have the less incremental jumps, even when I have those, I do this every single time. Is I
I
get
didn't
the
know
thumb
it
up.
does that.
Every I don't know why. I think I have the updated. I don't know, dude. See, look at us, man. I do it every time, and now it just randomly comes up, and I'm like, God dang it, I forget that happens. See, now I even kind of just lost my train of thought. Focus on your values. There it is. I know that's going down that route somehow, but um, see, like when you just do one shot things, with interviews like this, it's like you just let it roll.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Um, well, hell yeah. Well, hey, man. I appreciate you hopping on. I know it's been a minute since we've got to connect. And then here I am, kind of living in your state now, and you're getting ready to jump on out.
Yeah, it's your state now.
Come on, I'll take good care of it. But that being said, like we should probably get around to golfing before you head out.
100%. Let's plan that. And appreciate you having me on. Great seeing you as always.
Yeah. Where
yeah,
can the people find you? If you
Mental
want them
Coach-
to find you can tell them no. But, I mean.
Yeah, mentalcoachmorgan.com. I'm taking a prolonged hiatus on social media because it burned me out and it was
It's a lot,
just not good, not good for my mental health. So I'm taking a break on that. So yeah, mentalcoachmorgan.com.
And you're going to be in Europe for 3 months, so why would you be on social media? Like,
yeah, right.
That's funny because that's something else I talked about with somebody else about like experiences. I think my life philosophy has changed as I've gotten older. It's like experience as much as you can. I don't really take pictures when I go to things. Like, sure, I can remember it if I take a bunch of pictures, but like I think me taking pictures almost to me removes the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure I
tend
experience emotion a little bit, but like if I'm just there in it, like I don't know.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I tend to take pictures of people, like people that I'm with.
Okay.
Because I like to look back on those pictures and say, oh yeah, it was really good seeing him. But like those moments, like, when I was at the Grand Canyon, you can't take a picture of the Grand Canyon. Like it never does it justice. So like, just being there present. Yeah. So I like that.
Yeah. And I think like maybe I'll take like the one quick picture, but then it's like, it's in my pocket.
Okay.
Like I'm out.
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
Like yesterday, the first thing I did when I got into the arena, I took a picture of the center court because it said March Madness, put my phone away. Like
Done.
let's focus, because I think like, even with something like the Grand Canyon, like no matter what kind of pictures you take, like it's not going to do it justice.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, let's just go sit and sulk in that thing,
Yeah.
bring in the experience, because then now when I go talk about it, it's like, it's almost like reliving that, I don't
try
know.
to implant the picture in your mind, like you try to really
as opposed to be like, hey, like look at all these sick pictures, dude. It's like, this is so cool,
Yeah.
Well, hell yeah. So yeah, appreciate you hopping on. We'll get around in soon.
Yeah.
Everybody go ahead and download, like, share, rate, review, all those great things on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel, and then stay tuned to the social media page because I will be putting up short clips of this episode as we get on. But yeah, hell yeah, Drew, appreciate you as always. Good luck with the house selling and everything else. But we'll talk soon, brother. Right?
All right, man. I appreciate you.
Hell yeah, man.